we have David Norman from Edgewater coming up and Jean-Marc Frangos from Telecom. So this is it's an interesting panel because we've had this year in every TV3 we had case studies of successful partnerships, but this is the kind of the pre-case study. This is so these guys, Telecom and Edgewater, don't have a deal. And we're saying, well, what happened? What's the kind of process we would go through to discuss this and get through to it, among other things. So that's kind of one of the differences in this particular discussion. I think I'm going to like to ask Jean-Marc to kick it off, introduce himself, and then we can move over and I'll get that up, introductions out of the way, and then we'll get along with the discussion. Make sense? Okay.
Makes sense. I was going to say, we've got news for you because we were having lunch earlier today, so maybe it's too late.
Oh, no, no.
No, we would have room the whole scenario here. So Jean-Marc Frangos, I'm with BT, and if I was to sum up my role at BT, I'm the innovation guy. Not the research innovation guy, but the everything else, which means really connecting with Silicon Valley innovation, making sure that we get the best out of the smart people in this room in particular, and we bring that back into the right operational divisions of a company of about 100,000 people, so still a large company. Just a few words about BT, because you probably know the name and you know we're the incumbent in the UK. Maybe something that you don't know is we're a fixed telecommunication operators. We don't have a mobile arm at the moment. That's an interesting little twist. The other thing is that we have done a few things recently which sort of separate us a little bit from the rest of the telcos. We've heavily invested in content. We've spent about £1 billion on acquiring Premiership football rights for the next 3 years. So that makes it a really interesting kind of dive and jump into the content world, and particularly the TV and triple play world. We've also recently acquired LTE spectrum, so even though I said we're not a mobile operator, that's probably something that I will not sit here and say in 3 years if Derek invites me here in a couple of years. I might be saying the opposite in 2 or 3 years. We might actually be a mobile operator then, but probably not a traditional classic one, probably a new generation mobile operator, so we can discuss a bit more about it. I'll stop there for the intro.
It could be all data-based voice.
It could be everything I can think of. I'm not going to tell you right now.
The voters are advising you not to tell me right now. All right, so David, introduce yourself, please.
Sure. David Norman, founder, CEO of Edgewater Networks. We founded Edgewater Networks almost 11 years ago now as a managed service platform specifically for voice and video over IP services to enterprises. Our channel partners in the United States, many of them are represented here, large carriers, cable companies, over-the-top providers. We have about 200,000 of our Edgemark devices installed, 4 million sessions, and about 12 million end devices that are used on our platform today.
So David, let's go on with those hypotheticals. Jean-Marc said they had LTE spectrum. Let's say they put up a network and want to become a wireless carrier. Is that an opportunity for you, and how?
The way that we would look at that is another last mile network. Yep. So we would be wanting to run the same services that we'd run over that last mile. So we would have a demarc point and a management system that would sit on top of it in particular. We wouldn't really be specific to LTE. We're kind of Ethernet in, Ethernet out, and IP is the last mile.
So is that, I mean, when you're selling to the carriers you're selling to, you're selling the services that kind of compete with what they historically have done themselves. So how are you convincing them to work with you on what they bring to the table as well? Yeah,
it's been a long path, right? So some of the panels yesterday talking about selling to service providers, and I would say you have to be patient and persistent, and then pleasant is my third P, because you don't want to burn bridges. When people say no, it's because it's not yet. It's not time yet. When you look at where we are today, these service providers have had to move to VoIP, and they're moving those services, in particular in the enterprise, to the cloud. And with what we've done so far today, in particular in the US and North America, we're the leader in that demarc point for these hosted services. That happened by signing up all of the over-the-top guys first. Many of them have been acquired by the major service providers, and or they had development plans that were related to this, and as they got deployed, we were able to get into the carrier.
So when you see voice over LTE as one of the future needs and carriers, that opens an opportunity for you in general?
I think so. I think as we're talking to some of the same providers that are a combo of a wireline wireless carrier, they talk about that in the same fashion I was talking about, where it's the business data circuit, whether it's LTE or it's fiber, or we have to connect to all of those things to provide these applications on top of it.
You see Edgewater sticking with the enterprise target market?
I do. The lowest we would probably go are the remote branch office users where they need that same business expertise, that experience. They could be at home, they're a remote user, but it's an enterprise solution, meaning small, medium business enterprise.
All right, as I mentioned, Jean-Marc's like our returning champion of TC3 speakers. Had some of the better presentations of the previous years and clear to the point with BTE, so appreciate that a lot. And you guys are previous winners of the Friendly Ginger Award for being easy to work with in Silicon Valley, I must mention. So that's great. So thanks to you guys for your presence here and the work you're doing. But you've been here for long enough now to see things change. So how has the environment for service providers changed in the past 5 years with respect to working with new market players and integrating their solutions?
So if I look at what's been happening in the UK market, just for a minute, and then I'll return to David's market, which is the enterprise market. In the UK market, I mean, I think it's not a surprise if I say it's increased competition. And the point is, what we've seen in the last 5 years is, number one, we had the traditional competition, which was the other voice and ISPs, and we've traditionally, because the market's been open for such a long time in the UK, we always had a lot of
local loop on Monday.
Yes, exactly. So we have people providing in the enterprise space as well as in the consumer space, voice and ISP services. So that has not really changed in any other way than there's been a bit of consolidation in that market. But the other entrants that we've seen are driven by the fact that there's a lot more interest in triple play. I wouldn't say quadruple play, that's a bit too far, but certainly triple play. So what we've seen is that people in adjacent markets, so mobile players, Vodafone, cable wireless, getting into the fixed market, Sky, traditionally TV operator, getting into the telecommunication space. I think the Googles of this world and the OTT players, that's not a surprise for anyone, they're also approaching into the market. So in the UK market, I would say increased competition, which is not a surprise, but it just intensifies. In the enterprise market, it's been a very interesting 5 years because there's a lot of change, and David started talking about VoIP. And we've seen the turn to VoIP probably about between 10 and 5 years from here. So we're in the second wave of this, which is no longer just about VoIP and trunking and just getting soft switches and potentially hosted VoIP. We're now into a sort of mindset for SMEs or branches of large enterprises, which is consistent saying, okay, I've got this pipe now, and by the way, this pipe used to be a very nailed up circuit switch pipe. It used to be very secure. It used to have pores on it. I can do a lot of things with free internet or clear internet, but I need some more intelligence in order to be able to use it in a safe way. And I might be able to do that myself with equipment that David sells. But the interesting bit is there's a bundling of the voice requirements, the IT as in data requirements, and progressively more and more video in the enterprise. I mean, we find that everywhere we turn, we see growing video in the enterprise. Whether it's video, promotional video, or person-to-person video, or CEO to employees video, there's a lot more of that going on. So what's happening in the enterprise segment for us is kind of a richer portfolio, more opportunities for us to sell on the back of a connectivity sale, but with it comes a bit more complexity as well.
So we have a number of people talking, Panelist talking yesterday about new technologies that can apply. Juniper talked about software-defined networking. What are the things that British Telecom is looking at? I mean, everybody else has got the 5 lists. Off the top of your head, what would be 5 things that you're looking for in the next year or so that are going to revolutionize and change your networks?
Networks in general, I think it's the main thing that we're doing at the moment is we're rolling out fiber. So there's a bit of an undercurrent of an increased bandwidth. So that's probably one big one.
Fiber to how far?
So fiber for us is fiber to the cabinet, it's not fiber to the home. We also have fiber to the home with a small we're spending £2.5 million. It's the major investment that the company is making into rolling out fibre throughout the UK. We're deploying, we've got one of the fastest deployments on the planet, which is not kind of government subsidized, if you like. We roll out about 100,000 of these per week. So it's quite a pace. In fact, we're going to be ahead of our plan to have 2/3 of the UK fibre wired we're planning to have that in fall of 15, and we'll have that ready in the spring of 14. So we're about 18 months ahead of our rollout schedule, which is really, really good news. So that's one important thing that's going on as an underlying current, which is getting more of the speed available everywhere in the UK, and not just the urban areas, but progressively more of the rural areas too. At the moment 80 meg, and then behind this will come new technologies, vectoring and GFast, and we'll just see it going, continuing to go up. The other interesting bit is the mobile market is changing radically because of the same movement towards more bandwidth requirement. Yep. And I think we'll see cells getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And I think the distinction between a fixed operator and a mobile operator is going to become a bit more blurred now, because even today, I say we're not a mobile operator, but when we look at how mobile operators carry the traffic back to the data centers, it's through our lines. So we're effectively 2/3 or 3/4 of the bandwidth.
Carrying the mobile traffic, except for the last hop.
Yeah, exactly. But what I think will happen is that these cells will shrink and shrink and shrink, and you can start wondering how far it will shrink. Will it be to the enterprise level? Will it be to the individual level? Will it be to the household level? So these are some of the major underlying things that we expect to happen.
When the cells shrink down to Wi-Fi being able to sell and passing voice over it, you're a fairly dominant Wi-Fi operator in the UK, and that's not even including the fact that we have Wi-Fi customer premises within all these homes.
Yeah, it does include that. We've got 5 million hotspots in the UK. When we say that, we do include the hubs that people have terminated broadband in their homes, which beam Wi-Fi with a public and a private SSID. But it's very interesting to say that, yeah, because I mean, we can see homes probably becoming the place for home sales in the LTE world.
I look at Republic Wireless as an example of a cellular phone company that's designed to travel over Wi-Fi, can roam onto a mobile network. That's something that you guys would be very interested in, that kind of model, with that kind of Wi-Fi presence.
We've been having a lot of discussions with these guys, and it's a very interesting learning case.
David, what's next on the enterprise side? What kind of innovations are you rolling out for telecommunication services to businesses?
I think one of the things that's great that we're seeing everywhere is that increase in bandwidth.
Yep.
That creates an opportunity because you need new infrastructure.
Yep.
But there's also a commoditization for the carrier that they're trying to figure out how to get more value on top of that. And that's really what we've been enabling. So we did it with voice services. If you look at with the MSOs in particular here in the US, they provided a very fast link to enterprise. Now they've been taking over the hosted PBX business. And what we're working on next for that environment is a way to use software-defined networking called software-defined access and virtualizing the wide area network, combined with the idea of network function virtualization, and deliver security services in a simple manner that's inexpensive that you can then deliver to the small and medium business and the branch office. And that's really what we see as the growth opportunity for us. It's a way to kind of move up the stack. You could argue that SDN and NFV would be dangerous for us, but they actually open things up. And what we've been doing in development today, and what we'll be delivering in the first half of next year, are equipment that's really designed for that environment. So tremendously less expensive than the incumbents, but hitting the price points that the carriers want to see and the margin targets that we really want to see at Edgewater.
You mentioned security services, one of the value-added services you provide. So this using software-defined network with security on top of it. I wonder, is that a buzzword that I'm hearing a lot of this TC3 because of the recent breaches in our security, or is that something you were talking about 3 months or 4 months ago as well?
We started this
pre-Snowden and post-Snowden. Were you talking about this pre-Snowden as well?
We were. We started this discussion probably 18 months ago inside the company, and then some of the things that have really brought it to a head are the increased bandwidth, the things that have been happening in software-defined networking, allow us to provide a solution that can provide security at line rate now by mixing this together. doing what you need to do locally, and if you can't do it there, moving into the cloud, keeping up with the 100 meg link, the 300 meg link, at a CPE that can be afforded by a small, medium business branch office, a Panera Bread store, for example.
Okay. So the Panera Bread store, that'd be part of that, part of the land is to be the head office of the Panera Bread in a more economical way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we had, Unified was up here saying, showing us how a core network was going to enter into your space essentially.
Yeah.
So what kind of, are there a lot of people clamoring to get in where you're living, and you guys got a lot of clients there as well. So what about this tremendous increase in competition? It seems like everybody says, hey, the enterprise, that's a right target. So how do you both defend that territory?
If I start, I'll say, we were joking about the panel yesterday. I was joking that everybody's bringing it. I probably hear SDN 20 times a day in my normal job, and then FB comes in with half of these cases as well. It's part of the defense mechanism for the enterprise market, because what we want to have is, the problem we have as operators today is when we serve an SME or a branch of a large enterprise with a connectivity offer, we end up having 3 or 4 or 5 boxes at the end of that. One that's a route to another one, let's say a firewall security box, then a load balancer, then you have some storage. So there's a lot of different functions, and typically it used to be one box per portfolio item we sell to the enterprise. So the big promise behind SDN is that with a multi-function box, ideally now if we move into an FD, it's a commodity hardware box. So that's, I think we're not quite there yet. We're very bullish about it. We certainly would love it to be as inexpensive as possible, because then that would enable us to sell these solutions out of a single box, which is highly manageable, downloadable, new functions, new portfolio, new software. It's not about voice only, it's about voice, it's about IT, it's about security, it's about collaboration. That's the portfolio, and video, as I say. That's the portfolio I start selling to these enterprises. If you can do it with a single box, if you can do it in a software downloadable way, then you've got a cost base that's completely different from the one we have today. So that's a defense mechanism as well as a growth opportunity for us.
So you mentioned video, voice calls, audio, data, and security. It's kind of the range of services. Is that the package?
Well, the package also includes, if you look into the SME space, the package also includes access to the cloud. If you look at the higher end, and by cloud and SaaS applications. If you look at the higher end of the enterprise market, it's more the hybrid cloud scenario. So where they have inside their data centers and inside their firewall boundaries, they have their own cloud, private cloud, and they're tapping into public clouds and they're tapping into virtual private clouds across the boundaries.
So I'll once again invite anyone if you have questions for Jean-Marc or David to step up to the microphone. David, what is your approach to the cloud? You guys operate services as all?
Well, today what we really do is it's mainly management. Yep. But as you look at what we're doing with that management system, we're turning it into more of a cloud-based infrastructure that could be run in the carrier's cloud or be operated by us on AWS or Rackspace, for example. And then that's where the policy management system goes. When you move into this flow-based system, that's where you're going to really run those things.
All right, let's role play. Let's do the drill. If you were to pitch a carrier or a fixed line service like BT, what's your elevator pitch, and let's see if we can react to it.
So, related to our current business today with the enterprise session border controller market, what we've done is to put together a system that has a 5x TCO versus Cisco, for example, connects, protects, optimizes, and manages that voice, video, and data combined network. So our customers have lower churn, happier customers, and a lower OpEx.
How do you sell? How would you partner with BT? Would you ask them to sell a channel for you, or to be a purchase?
We would be a demarc point for their services, so they're really our customer. So we're providing value to them to provide to their customers.
So we maybe reversed this with David at lunch, actually, because what I was saying to him was, fine, but it's got to be justified because we already have solutions out there, right? It's got to be justified both on the cost saving, operation efficiency, and revenue growth. So it's got to have the promise of being able to roll out new services in the future in the same architecture. Now, the other angle that we didn't discuss, though, was the whole operationability of the solution. Because today we know we can operate, We have a certain stability in our system, our OSS, our customer service processes, our workflows. How does that change with a solution which is a single box solution? Do you introduce a single point of failure in the enterprise? These are the interesting questions that we debate.
Well, even with a good pitch, so you go, yeah, that would be useful. In the perfect world, if I could pull one out and put one in, that would be great. But I got to look at the real world stability of my network. And so you got existing vendors, and you have to. So they would have to offer significant improvement cost-wise or performance-wise over existing solutions. It's not just these 1.5x better than it needs to be something more.
And I'll have to modify my workflows, I'll have to retrain my agents, I'll have to do a number of things in the background which inevitably cost money. But we do that on a regular basis. The new generations of platforms come out on a regular basis. So that's not something we completely alien to. We do that for that.
So, this is the lunch discussion you have here, talking about what's the logical next step? You say, well, that's interesting, we need to talk to the board and then dive deeper into it. Is that where we are now?
Yeah, I think we kind of agree with doing the baseball together.
That sounds like a pretty easy way to All right, Jean-Marc, I'm seeing you have a slide. So before we wrap up, let's go to your slide and then we'll close out.
Exactly. That was just my call for action to all the startups in the room, and I had a very good afternoon yesterday in the tent, meeting with a lot of startups that attended TC3. But for those of you who haven't seen today, these are the areas I'm interested in terms of our innovation focus. I'd say the first one is value-added services on fiber is kind of my permanent task, because we've been rolling out broadband and now we're with super fast broadband, which is fiber. I'm always interested in any application that I can bundle in my portfolio that increases my average revenue per user. So anybody with a good, particularly fiber tune application, and what that really means is using the up bandwidth, not just the downlink, and potentially having some rich media on it. That will be something I'll pay particular attention to if you come to a position like that. The second box there is the IPTV side of things. I mentioned that we've invested $1 billion in content, so we're pretty serious about rolling out TV services, and we have effectively launched 3 new TV channels, which are 3 TV sports channels. So I'm really interested in how we can be a TV 2.0 operator, so to say. So how can we be different from what we have today with regards to audience engagement particularly, because it's one thing broadcasting a game on TV. You've got very interesting games. It's going to be a Manchester United, Liverpool, you know you're going to have attendance and you're going to have good audience. The point is, how do you engage the people so they come back and watch other games? How do you also get them interested in watching sort of back catalogue type things that they would not normally watch if you're in the UK and you're not German, you're not necessarily going to watch Bundesliga games. We do have those. We'd like people to tune into this. So that's another area of interest. The third one is related to our mobility entry. And as I was hinting at earlier, we think that these cells will shrink to the point of becoming femtos. And I'm really interested in breakthrough there in costs, particularly in terms of the femto technology, hardware itself, but also the software side of it, which is the self-organized networks. How does SON help you roll out a femto network, which will need to interoperate with a lot of existing networks?